for Wednesday, March 20th at 7:32 p.m. Mr. Metcher, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Weisbord? Here. Ms. Rickards?
Here.
Ms. Pananopoulos?
Here.
Mr. Nixon? Here. Mr. McGreevy? Here. Vice President Teflon Moffett?
Present.
Mayor Deutsch?
Here.
Solicitor John Walco? Here. President Aaron Meter?
Here, thank you. Ms. Mayor, would you like to make your report first?
Sure. We doing the pledge?
Oh, we'll get, sorry. You know, I do this every month, which is I read roll call and then I move on. I'm sorry. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's do
I'll do it every month. I will. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right.
Would you like me to do my report?
Yes, if you could.
Yes. Okay. So I have the police incident reports, monthly police reports. Happy to say incidents in the borough were down a little bit. Always a good thing. Traffic enforcement is up in the borough, so please mind your P's and Q's while you're speeding along the streets. We will be stopping people and giving out tickets, heavier than we have in the past, and we're going to continue that policy. And I would like to give a particular shout out and particularly thanks to our parking controller, Robin Mazanoble. She's doing an outstanding job of asking people to comply with the law and doing her job and keeping our town's parking moving along. And she's doing a great job, and I just want to do a shout out and a thank you to her for her hard efforts. There has been a change in our technology for parking enforcement. This change in technology has created a situation where we no longer can have a visitor list. You can no longer call into the borough and ask that your visitors on 2-hour streets can remain longer than those 2 hours. I recognize that this is an issue for some people. It will require a legislative fix, and be advised that council is working on that fix, and they will be giving a little more information during the course of this meeting. But please, for the moment, there is no extensions of that 2-hour parking within those 2-hour time zones. Finally, I'd like to just remind everyone we're having a celebration of the life of Victoria Donahoe tomorrow evening. Dennis Montagna is going to be giving a presentation on Victoria's life, and she was the unofficial historian of Narberth, and she really kept our history up to available to everybody, and she led a remarkable life. And to those who can make it, it's tomorrow night from 7 to 9 in the west wing of the community building on Windsor Avenue. So please come and hear about and celebrate the life of Victoria. And I'm just going to give turn in my report.
Okay,
Thank you
very much. One order of business for me this evening. There is a restructuring of the committees of council. Finance and Administration will be chaired by Cindy Rickards, Vice Chair Michelle Pananopoulos, Member Rob McGreevy. Public Safety, Gigi Teflon Moffett Chair, Rob McGreevy Vice Chair, Cindy Rickards Member. Infrastructure Committee, Bob Weisbord Chair, Cindy Rickards Vice Chair, Michelle Pananopoulos Member. Thank you. We also have a guest this evening. Mr. Stern, are you here? Oliver Stern has a presentation for us.
Okay.
Tell us your story. Sean?
Can I stand up here?
Yes, please.
Okay. So some of you know me already. I am a student artist at Lower Merion High School. I take art classes in school and out of school. I've been recognized regionally and nationally by competitions like Scholastic and Celebrating Art. And I'm here with a proposal. I would like to create a mural in the lower municipal parking lot. So first I'd like to go over the location specifically. So, some images. All right, so as you can see, this location might be familiar to you. I plan to, or I would like to create a mural in the indentation of this spot in particular. Okay, yeah. And I've chosen this spot primarily because I think the indentation is interesting, like here, the space, and it's just an area of the town that could use some brightening up, I feel. And I'm creating a mural, or I wish to create a mural partially because I'd like to contribute to the town, and second, I believe that murals can have a positive effect on citizens' happiness, and also it can act as measures against graffiti, stuff like that devalue the property. So now I'd like to go on to the design itself, and I actually have copies for you. So, yeah, I'd like to pass these around.
Are they all the same? Are they copies?
Yeah, they're all the same.
All right.
Okay, so as you can tell, this is a depiction of the. Okay. All right, yeah. This is a depiction of the Narberth train. Yeah, there you go. Station leaving Narberth, and partially why this image and composition resonates, I think, is you have some elements which I'm sure you're getting pretty angry at this bridge at this point, but I kind of believe that Narberth is continually progressing and moving forward, and there's always this energy of change and constant motion in Narberth. So as you can see, this train is going into the distance, and this picture is supposed to represent the future of Narberth, so kind of a symbol of Narberth progressing. Okay, so now I'd like to talk about the materials and kind of like technical aspects of the mural. So the wall itself is in fairly good condition. As you can see, there's some stainage over here which will need to be cleaned up and possibly sealed over, but aside from that, there should not be significant changes needed to the area. I would start with a primer, which is standard for mural making, and then paint the mural itself in a combination of house paints and artist-grade acrylic paints. So partially, the reason why I chose these paints is their light fastness. Essentially, they can be removed, but they are resistant to rain and other weather effects, and their colors last for a very long time. And after this has been painted, I would apply an isolation coat and then a varnish. So the varnish would protect the mural from environmental conditions and, like I said above, the possibility of graffiti. And with the isolation coat, if the need ever arrived, it could be removed. So that's important. The funding for the mural would be fairly cheap, as murals go approximately $750 to $800. And I would like to apply or appeal for funding from the Bureau if this project is approved, and if there's not room in the budget, I'd seek fundraising, like crowdfunding opportunities from local businesses and grant making and that type of stuff. And I guess that's all, yeah. Do any of you have any questions?
What colors would you use?
What colors? So, I would use It's kind of hard to like visualize colors, but I'd use like
A soft palette, a bright
standard-
palette?
I'd say I typically follow like a more neutral palette and then introduce color at areas of interest, and I'd strive to maintain kind of like a a like semi-expressionistic style in the piece. If this committee does have interest in this project, I will produce a full color design for it. Any more questions?
Oh, and I've seen your artwork at the high school on the walls, and also your proud parents post your work sometimes on Facebook, and I've always been so impressed with your talent and ability.
Thank you.
And I just want to commend you for coming here. This is like a little intimidating, and ask what put this idea in your head? What made you think to do this?
Well, I was kind of like walking around Narberth, as I do a lot, and I realized I wanted to contribute something to the town. I thought that a mural would be the best way to a mural would be the best way to do this with my abilities. Yes?
How long do you think it will take you to actually execute?
Oh yes, I was going to touch on execution. Thanks for reminding me. So currently the time frame, if this is approved, I would, from now until the end of the school year, I would focus on fundraising and purchasing materials, and then after the school year ends, I'm willing to work six or so hours a day on the mural each week, and according to my research, this should put the time of process somewhere around 1 to 2 weeks. Yes?
I'll defer to our Director of Public Works on whether or not the paints you're discussing are appropriate, because I have no idea. I want to thank you again too, because it's an amazing example of young citizens. Would you need to restrict any of the parking in that back lot while you paint the mural?
That is a good question. I think I would need to restrict one lot at a time.
One parking spot
Yeah.
at a time?
As there are 2 in here. Yeah.
And you'd be doing this during the day, in the summer,
Yeah, during the day.
and a weekday?
Standard, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Oliver.
Thank you.
Discuss this
Yeah,
later.
good job.
Nice job.
We will discuss this later in the meeting under new business. Now is an opportunity for public comment. If anyone in the public would like to make a comment on any topic that they like, this is their chance. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. If you could stand up and state your name and address, please.
Laura Kelly, 35 North Narberth Avenue, Narberth, the Hamburg Studio.
Thank you.
So here to discuss the bridge with you, the bridge closure with you all. I don't know what's an appropriate time. Now is the time. Okay, fantastic. So there are 8 of our businesses obviously affected by the bridge closure. Currently, how it's structured, I think we're here for 2 issues. One, how it's structured and the safety currently, the way it's done, and what we're seeing that's kind of happening. And the second is of course, financial impact to our businesses. First, with the way things are going right now, it's a little bit dangerous. We've got cars pulling up to the barricades and then trying to K-turn out of that situation. So the cars being parked are at risk, plus kids crossing. In regards, and so that's something I think that we just need to think about how that's going to be. I think also to its physical looks, if we could potentially make it a little less imposing. Right now it looks like a danger zone, and it's scaring some of our families away who are coming up there with kids and all that. It's like, don't go anywhere near there. So if there's something we can do to reduce the factor, that would be appreciated. And then as far as the situation with the financial impact on that, when you closed that bridge, that closed our ability to make money. Last time the bridge was closed, I lost 40% of my revenues. And as a person, that studio is what pays my mortgage, feeds my family. And so I'd like to discuss the potential of other options of closing the pedestrian walkway. I understand that the actual closure of the bridge is coming and that that's going to be in 2020. We know that, and actually we've been planning and looking for other sites to be able to rent to during that time. However, this immediate closure as it was, which has been explained to me that it is solely for the sidewalks, that they've been closed. That's what was explained to me by Ed with Public Works, that it's the sidewalks that are, if I understood correctly, it's the sidewalks that are dangerous right now. And so the bridge itself structurally is okay currently. And then just remembering that we have a lot of kids that go to the activities. There's the ballet studio, the little gym, the handwork studio, Sweet Maples art studio. So that means that right now, the way that it's set up, and certainly with summer coming and with summer camp, we're all going to be greatly affected by this closure. Tracy, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to that as being owner of Sweet Maples. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll call one at a time, just so.
Did I miss anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy,
The only thing
just
that,
state your name and address for the record.
Tracy Tumalo from Sweet Mabel.
Thank you.
We were just wondering if it stays the way it is, if we could have one lane traffic, car traffic coming into town, and then the other side being for pedestrians, wheels, and that kind of thing. Because that way people would be on the right side to park and to drop off, and maybe have the other way going out of town. You turn right into the parking lot where the little gym is, but no U-turns. The U-turn thing has got to end because it's just so dangerous. So that was our solution, if possible.
Anyone else from the public? Any comment? All right, so we will discuss the bridge again under old business. It's a little later in the meeting, but thank you for your comments. All right. 6A.
I move the Borough Council approve the minutes of the February 6, 2019 workshop meeting and February 20th, 2019 business meeting of Borough Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. I'll take another motion. Councilor Ricketts.
Motion B, I move the Borough Council approve the schedule of bills of the general sewer and solid waste funds and authorize the Borough Manager to pay all of the bills.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. One more.
I move the Borough Council appoint a borough resident to the Narber Shade Tree Commission, and we have two names that are available for discussion. If everybody didn't have an opportunity to look over those candidates in the temp folder, maybe we can discuss them now.
See it. We can discuss it.
Okay.
Let's discuss it. I didn't see it either.
And I'm actually, I'll defer to our actual Shade Tree Committee members.
Well, hold on. Let's get a second. Put it on the
Oh, okay,
table.
second, sorry.
This is
Any
a
second?
motion to
Second.
a
To
motion to
discuss?
discuss.
Not
And
to
then we'll have
appoint.
another motion
Right.
to appoint. All right, is there a second?
All right. Second.
All right,
So
okay.
we are discussing Sally Anderson,
Yep,
and we are discussing Michael Dillon.
okay.
Tell us something about Mr. Dillon.
Yeah, give us 30-second summaries.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Would you like me to?
No,
I
please.
would.
Yeah,
Please.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael Dillon lives on Woodside. I don't know either of these candidates personally, but he is an attorney and looks like he deals with a lot of environmental concerns as an attorney. And then Sally Anderson is the curator of the Hartford College Arboretum. So her work is very directly related to the work of Shakespeare.
Can you take a motion?
Well, would you like to move to table this? Say, yeah, but trust me.
Okay, I'll move to table.
Is there a second? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
It's tabled. Now make a motion to appoint
I
someone.
move that we appoint Sally Anderson to the Shade Tree Commission.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. And any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of appointing Sally Anderson to the Shade Tree Commission? Aye. Unanimous, thank you. Okay. Councilor Ricketts.
I move that Borough Council authorize the Borough Manager to advertise Ordinance 1015, an ordinance amending the Narberth Borough Code, Chapter 11, Fire Department, to add a new article, Volunteer Service Credit Program, to the real estate tax credits for qualifying volunteer members of the Narberth Fire Company and Narberth Ambulance, and to establish administrative procedures for such credits.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's have a discussion. Can you give us a little background on this?
I can, and then I'll actually defer to Mr. Walko.
Okay.
So, as we are aware, we discussed this in public safety as well, that there is a national crisis in low volunteerism in both fire and ambulance spaces. And there are other municipalities, including Lower Merion, who have used a local tax credit as a tool to both recruit, and we would be retaining the institutional knowledge of our current volunteers and enticing new volunteers to participate. This is a really small gesture. It's 20% of your local tax, and I believe it comes out with our current volunteer about $3,500. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that.
I think we did calculate the maximum payout, assuming every one of those volunteers who meets all the other requirements also fulfills the participation requirements, would be about $3,500 impact to the borough budget. And
Not to an individual firefighter,
No,
but
no,
certainly
no.
the maximum amount.
the
impact
maximum
on
amount
borough.
total to our budget,
Right.
and I was going to say my next end, the benefit to each individual firefighter is probably on the order of $250.
It's a very small gesture and token of appreciation of, again, enticing folks to come forward and volunteer, but also a gesture to those that continue to volunteer. And this is not as simple as you say you're a volunteer. There are credentials where you have to meet a number of calls and a number of drills and education.
Mr. Walcott.
Walko?
That's correct. This is an ordinance that a lot of municipalities have passed all throughout the area after the law passed in 2016, establishing this program for the reasons you said. The ordinance itself just sets up the existence of the program, and again, it would apply to the Narberth Fire Company and Narberth Ambulance. I believe right now, for example, there are members of the Narberth Ambulance Company who live in Lower Merion who get this credit because they live in Lower Merion. So it sort of equals that out. As far as the actual criteria, that would be set up in a separate resolution. We'd be using or proposing in that resolution the criteria that's somewhat standard. If the borough found it needed to be lessened or increased, we certainly could do that without much to do, because it would just be a new resolution. But again, the ordinance is really what puts that in place. It provides for who qualifies as an active volunteer, how that person can go about being certified to get this tax credit. It does involve some work for the borough office, and Mr. Metrick in his position as manager and borough secretary, to ensure that the active volunteers are receiving the credits, and that those that should not be are not taking advantage of the program. But again, that's no different than any other municipality.
Okay. Any other discussion, questions?
I would say that the only piece, and I don't know if it's in this one because I didn't see this version of it, sorry, was that, Fran comes and gives a report to public safety about how many calls and whether there are new volunteers. So I would just say that needs to be included. Maybe, I don't know if it goes to finance administration for that piece, or go, I know that Sean gets a copy of that report, but just to be able to say, see if it's working, and a review process to see, is this really an incentive that's retaining or getting new people in, or just some amount of review process to understand whether it's successful or not. That would be the only thing that I can think of.
Yeah.
Right.
And quite frankly, that's a good way to make sure that the program's being operated correctly, because you're supposed to give 1 point towards a standard fire call response. So if you have 100 fire calls in the year and everyone's getting 150 points of fire call response, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
So,
we have to make match.
And that's not the only criteria. I mean, it's meetings, it's drills, it's committee meetings, it's serving duty time at the station, and points for each year that you do stay as active duty. You get an automatic point for that. So again, trying to increase longevity in the program and for volunteers.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, all in favor of introducing this tax credit ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, Councilor Weisbord.
For some reason, it has not been.
I move that the Borough Council adopt Resolution 2019-007, extension of reimbursement agreement for Norbert Avenue Ridge Design and Engineering for the attached document.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Metrick, did you say anything?
Tell us about this exciting agreement.
This is an agreement. This is an agreement between the borough and PennDOT, establishing terms and conditions and final total dollar amount for eligible reimbursement for costs incurred for design and engineering the bridge, which is a process that's nearing completion in 2019. We exhausted the maximum amount of design and engineering costs sometime in May 2018, when we're waiting on a revised reimbursement agreement from PennDOT to enlarge the total dollar amount. That's what council has before it right now. Approval of this agreement will allow us to get reimbursement for costs we've incurred since May, about $48,000 in receivables in 2018 and another 21,000 or so receivables that we will have already booked in 2019. Dollars we've already spent that will be reimbursed at the rate of 80% from the federal government, 15% from state, leaving the borough on the hook for 5% of its local share for design and engineering. That same formula is going to apply for construction when that comes. And that is not what's before you yet, because we haven't moved into that phase. We hope to move into that phase sometime in 2020.
Okay. Any other questions from Mr. Metrick? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Unanimous. All right, Mr. Metrick, your report, please.
Just give me a second here.
Take your time.
I went over in detail in the meeting prior to this some of the main financial points, and I will give a more brief presentation of those items here at tonight's meeting. I'd like to start with money and the financials and talk about that. In our March business meeting packet, you will see the budget versus actual and the cash fund balance and schedule of bills for the borough ending the end of February. So far this year, the borough has lost $296,000. That's typical. We don't start seeing our tax revenue come in until March. We're going to book about 90% of our tax revenue in the coming weeks. So we'll be flush with cash, and we'll be able to move things around into interest-bearing accounts that'll earn more of our interest income and pay some of our liabilities, like to the police pension fund off, so we can get that money into the police pension fund in a quick manner. We're waiting on the capital contributions from PICO and Aqua from work done in 2018, and due to inclement weather, our schedule with the borough's CPA was delayed a day, so we got back on our schedule for the first week of April. So our books should be tied up and closed. 2018 books will be closed first week of April, and we'll be back on the audit trail ASAP. There are currently 3 active subdivision land development projects in the borough, one at 114, they're all on corners of the same block, downtown. 114 Forest Avenue is a 56-unit apartment building. The applicant's been invited to present plans to council at the April 3rd workshop. It's the next time we'll meet together in this room as a council. And our April business meeting will be the last opportunity for council to act on this proposal within the 90-day review period window. without an extension of time from the applicant. The same development group has submitted plans for both 100 Forest and 203 Haverford Avenues, the gas station and Ricklands properties. On the former, they've proposed an 8-unit mixed-use retail building. On the latter, a 14-unit mixed-use retail building, both 3 stories tall with spaces on the ground floor for retail uses. We don't know what those uses are going to be yet. The first public presentation of these plans is going to take place Monday, April 1st in this room at the Narberth Planning Commission meeting at 7:30. And Borough Council has until its May business meeting on the 15th to take action on these 2 plans. I want to make you aware that a draft of a comprehensive plan has been submitted for review, and we are expecting to have our we have advertised to have our public hearing on April 17, which is during our business meeting. After we've received comment, council will be in a position to vote to adopt that plan or make any substantive changes to it, wherein we'd have to have another hearing prior to being able to vote on it. If it's okay with Council President, I could include some information about the bridge at this point.
That is actually, hold on that, please.
Okay.
We're going to handle that under old business.
You got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Solicitor?
I have nothing to report. I would ask for an executive session for litigation matters after.
Do you anticipate any council action following?
No
so we
council
can do that
action.
post-adjournment?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Monthly reports have been filed. Any comments for the good of council? All right, moving on to new business. Let's talk about the mural project. Would someone like to make a motion to put this on the table?
I will so move to put the proposal of the new mural of Oliver Stern, thank you so much, to on the table for discussion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's talk about the mural. We're looking for 2 things here. One is an approval to do it on our property, and the second is whether the borough submits some or all of the funding for the materials. The labor is free.
Well, I guess my question would be, is that Mr. Metric, is there any available funding that we have, or would Oliver and the rest of us need to go and raise those funds? Fear not, Oliver. Fear not.
Well, we might have some room in miscellaneous accounts in Public Works and Administration to at least partially fund Oliver's request.
Okay.
I might suggest as a starting point in the conversation, $500.
That's more than generous.
Maybe we could just talk about approving the project.
That's right.
And he said he wanted to submit some
Yes.
sort of full color renderings, and then at that point we could revisit it and know that there's a capacity, at least partially funded, is some capacity.
Okay.
It was extraordinarily well presented.
I'm so
It's incredible in only the way that like a kid who grew up in the city full of murals could understand how to execute, how to prepare and to explain all of the detail. That was, most people don't do it so well. You did a great job.
Yeah.
So, Councilor Tevlin,
Yes.
maybe you would like to amend your motion to approve this project, and we will wait for
I would
Mr.
like to
Sturgeon.
amend my original, motion, and to include that we
To approve.
approve this mural and specifics to be hammered out later.
All right, who seconded it?
I'll second.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it's all friendly, we're good.
It's all friendly.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, unanimous. The project is approved.
Very good.
We will seek some renderings from the next stage, and then we will discuss funding options. Thank you.
Yay, Oliver.
All right.
Thank you, Oliver.
Good job,
Oliver.
Oliver. May all your projects be
Yeah.
that easy.
No, he's got
Also under new business, let's talk about, I don't have any other new business. Does anyone else? All right, let's move to old business. Let's talk about the bridge.
Okay. We became aware due to a complaint from a resident that the sidewalks on the inbound side of the bridge were moving as they walked across the bridge. We take these kinds of complaints seriously, so we went out and investigated and concurred with those findings. And that's why the bridge sidewalks on the inbound side were closed immediately. And later that week on a Thursday, our borough engineer sent their team out to investigate and concurred with that finding. However, because they couldn't gain access to do a hands-on close-up inspection, they were doing it with binoculars, they were doing it by looking through, pulling some boards up and looking at things beneath. They were unable to determine if the sidewalks can be repaired or they can support their own weight for a little while longer. So those questions remain in the air, and those questions will be answered when PennDOT performs its hands-on inspection, which is due in April. We don't have a date yet for that hands-on inspection. What that means is they're going to be coming out on some contraption that's actually on the rails, sanctioned by Amtrak, sometime in the middle of the night, and getting really close to and inspecting all of the supporting all of the bridge understructure and making a recommendation on the load rating and condition of the entire bridge and its ability to carry a load. And right now the load rating on the bridge is 9 tons. It can't go any lower than that. The next step down is closure. We have no reason to believe that it is going to get closed, but I'm not the inspector. I'm not out there doing the work. We have to wait for that to be determined. In the meantime, we've tasked our traffic engineer to investigate one of the options I heard from the public earlier, to possibly have a one-way travel on the bridge with pedestrians moving as well in the cartway. There's not enough room to have 2 lanes of travel and pedestrians to fit on the cartway, and that's the only safe way to do it. So they're investigating those options. They have to get as best traffic count data that they can, which means since we've closed the bridge, they have to go back and find historic data. They can't go out there and do a traffic count on a bridge that's closed. And they're piecing together that information, and we'll make a written recommendation to submit it to me, and I'll forward that to council when we've received it. That we'll have to investigate the costs of that solution, the feasibility and safety of that solution. Hopefully the traffic engineer will grant us a solution or propose a solution that is safe for both of those uses to coexist on the bridge. The thing we'll have to consider is it worth the expense to make that happen? That'll be a decision council will make. We also learned in this process, and concurrent with all of this closure of sidewalks, that the understructure of the bridge is deteriorating and concrete is falling off the bridge onto the train tracks below. So we are required in the next 6 months, and when I say we, the borough is required to, in the next 6 months, to install shielding underneath the bridge to capture anything that might fall on the tracks below. We're going to have to do that, spend that money, be on the hook for that 100%, regardless of what happens with the sidewalks and reopening access. So there's these 3 things all happening in the same place in the same time that we are working to figure out. And we can certainly coordinate for a better traffic pattern and take some recommendations in. We had designed it to divert traffic into the upper municipal parking lot in the hope that persons would not go further up the street, but I can confer with John and Ed, and we can come up with a solution that prevents these kinds of dangerous movements that you referred to. So I thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Questions from council members?
Aaron.
Yes, Ms. Mayor.
It is my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, just as an explanation as to why the bridge was closed, it was not entirely solely due to the pedestrians crossing. The last full inspection of the bridge was back in 16, is that right?
No, 17.
17.
August of 17.
August of 17. At that point, the bridge had scored a 1 on a scale of 0 to 7. 7 being brand new bridge, 0 meaning close it now. So we had scored a 1. We were scheduled to have a full inspection of the bridge last year in August. However, that had been postponed. And, bridges don't get better with age. It's not like it's going to go to a 2.
I would just say, it was not postponed due to any action on our
No. Right. But, well, the motion of Borough Council, there was a motion made to get that full inspection in, just to make sure we're still at a level 1. And once we have a full inspection, as had been previously scheduled, we can make it. We're in a better position to make a decision as to what's in the safety of the bridge.
Yes, and I would add to that, that report may come back with all kinds of information, including information where council would have the opportunity to spend money to make repairs.
Could be.
Same position we were in, 8 years ago.
2012.
Right. So, yes, Ms.
Can I
Ricketts.
comment? And if this isn't the time for this question, please let me know.
Yeah.
So even if the bridge does open post-inspection, we are looking at the closure of the bridge for a significant amount of time in 2020 when we replace the bridge.
15 months, is that the plan?
Minimum,
Okay.
yes.
So can we be thinking ahead of how can council support the downtown? And is that fund allocation to the NBA to increase marketing or PR? Or is that a conversation where we can begin to think about how can council support the business and the business association, whether it's immediately, but we know for a fact that it's going to happen in hopefully a year.
Yeah, I mean, I would welcome input from the business association. I think it's good to bring this up in advance. We may or may not be able to do it, but I mean, I think they're in the best position to at least get a conversation started with some suggestions we might not think of ways that could possibly help. And then we have time. I think it's not too early to think about it. Ask really for the business association for some input, and that we can work with and start to think about it, start to plan. It's good.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I like that idea. And Sean, what's the timeline for the traffic engineer? That's kind of the interim step, right? Could that report come back and possibly suggest the one-way traffic in 2 weeks, in a month?
I'm expecting, also because they are going to be here at the workshop meeting to talk to us about Windsor Avenue, that we'll have that information handed within a couple weeks. Okay.
So possibly we could be in a position in 2 weeks to do the solution of a one-way.
Okay. We'll have more information for sure.
We'll have more information in weeks, not months.
Right.
That's the timeline.
Right.
Do we have any, I'm sorry, do we have any information at all for planning purposes about how long it might take us to be able to get the shielding underneath?
I don't have an estimate yet.
No? Okay.
Any other questions? Yes.
Just to clarify, can we initiate a conversation with the NBA about how can council support you
Sure, well, there's
when the bridge
hi, Ed.
closes? I didn't want to necessarily do
And
that, but
Tracy.
hi, Ed.
And Laura.
And now that we don't have economic development, maybe you can identify who that conduit would be.
I can work directly with Ed, and we can discuss it. I think, from my perspective, these ideas should come from the business community. I think they are in the best position to know what their needs are, and they should know that we are listening. I think that's how government could best support business here.
Perfect.
So we'll link up afterwards.
So one more thing on the bridge,
Yes.
it's not a question, but it sounds like I don't hear the suggestion that we're going to be taking action to reopen it right at this time, right?
That was my next question.
Okay, all right.
Would council like to take any action this evening to reopen the bridge? And we are
I don't
pending
think there's
a
been
report in
change.
April on a hands-on inspection and a traffic study.
I've heard no new data to suggest that we should revisit.
If someone could make a motion, I'm hearing no motions, so we will move on. Okay?
So then if we're given the status quo, can I just, if we're revisiting detours, can we look on the other side as well? In the past, when the bridge was closed, there was traffic, cars think that they can go down Elmwood because they don't know that it's a dead end. And so they see the detour, they turn left there, they get to the end, it's a dead end, and they do the same turnaround. So if we're revisiting detours, if we could look on the south side as well to detour earlier.
I think Ed's listening.
That's my only suggestion, is to set south side, or I know that was a problem before.
So we discussed
has
this in
some
public
information, but
safety,
in the
and so
interest
that
of-
Sean has.
If anyone in the community or at this council table has specific traffic patterns that they're seeing,
Since the detour
unsafe
came up, let's look at both sides.
behaviors that they're seeing as a result of this detour, contact the office. It will be, it will go in and it will be part of the analysis about how to do this in the smartest possible way, given that this was an emergency and an unexpected thing. Sean?
We did assemble, our borough engineer assembled a detour plan that would use local roads and East Windward Road. Because we were using East Windward Road, which is a state road, we needed PennDOT's concurrence. We just got that. And so we have that plan in place. It requires the purchase and installation of signs.
Thank you.
So we're putting that thought process together. Yep.
Okay. All right. Anything else on the bridge? Hearing nothing. let's, let me cross off bridge here. Comp plan. I have a question for council. Maggie Dobbs from the Montgomery County Planning Commission asked me whether we would like someone, her, us, through committee, to reach out to the various boards and commissions, Shade Tree, Park, Rec Board, Environmental, Library, Police and Fire, for their feedback to sort of bring them up to speed on this comp plan, make sure that they've had a chance to review it. Timing-wise, it's still tight because it's planned to be discussed at the April 1st Planning Commission meeting. Not all of these boards and commissions will meet in that time frame, and not all of them would even have met sort of by the time it comes to us for action. I just wanted to get everyone's feedback and thoughts on whether this is something we put resources into doing, or at this, if there's a sense that sort of everyone knows we're doing this, and everyone who would sort of be interested has weighed in one way or another. Any comments?
I would not suggest that we put resources into this, given the timeline. I think a friendly invitation to folks who haven't read it to invite them to please do so and send us feedback feels appropriate.
Okay, noted. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm seeing nods. Okay. I will respond to her later. Last month, 2 weeks ago, we discussed the rec board and whether they, they were sort of, as we've professionalized the office and a lot of things that they used to pick up have been taken over, whether or not they needed to sort of continue to meet on their schedule. And former Councilor Fortner did a little research. It actually, in the ordinance, does not say that they have to meet every month. So we could definitely offer them the advice that they should set a meeting schedule that works for them at this point, and kind of await future orders. And if they were to come, I'm seeing a lot of nods.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I will take care of that. Thank you very much. And next, under new business or old business, we have some other appointments to make. I have a letter here from the library regarding the appointment to the board. There was some confusion about whether Ellen Trachtenberg had been appointed by them or appointed by us. She was appointed by them. There remains an open slot to be appointed by Narberth Borough Council for the library board, and they are eager for us to fill that slot. We had candidates on the list who had applied in January or in December, but I think we have an opportunity to maybe put out another call and see if there are interested candidates for the library board. Is everyone amenable to doing that?
Yeah, and I think that your point at that time was to say that we were looking for maybe some professional
financial
background to assist because of that loss of Regina Watson, who after 10 years stepped
That's
down.
right.
And so that they would need some financial support and probably in the best interest.
Yes. Okay. Seeing nods, I will, the office will move forward with advertising that, and we will get some names for our next meeting. My memory list also tells me that the civil service alternate position is still unfilled. We have not received any applicants, so I will make another call to the public. Civil service meets fairly infrequently, but it is a very interesting view into how police officers are hired in the state of Pennsylvania and in Narberth Borough. And you don't have to be a lawyer. You just have to have some interest in something you don't know anything about. This is an alternate position. You will find it interesting. I didn't serve in that role, but having read their rules many times, and we've modified them over the years, it's unique.
It is.
So we would look forward to your application. Mr. Metrick, are there any other commissions or boards that have openings? That was what was on my list.
No, you touched on the library board, which is what was on my list.
Yes.
What about the UCC review?
What's that?
The UCC review, wasn't there?
I thought we had appointed
Oh,
someone
did we have?
to the UCC
Have we done that?
review.
Okay.
2 months
Did we want more than one person then? We don't still have a call out?
I don't think we still have a call out. We'll check. We'll check for 2 weeks from now.
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure. Okay, so thank you for that. A lot of little danglers here we're taking care of. Next, the priority list. Everyone submitted or wrangled with this massive list. And I think that getting in that van was a really good experience for all of us in maybe some of what our office has been feeling. Feeling that all of these things don't have a priority and they just sort of move along as they do, or as you get callbacks, or as you get some done. And it can be paralyzing as the list, extends beyond 30 items. What am I supposed to do when I come into work today? So I'm interested to hear some of people's thoughts, and then maybe see if we can't make some progress on bucketing them into different categories, which may be a way to really reduce the number of items and the amount of prioritization that we need to do. Councilor Devlin Moffett.
So my brain works a little differently than the way that list was organized. And I did send an email suggesting that leadership maybe of the committees, with Sean's help, sit down and have a conversation about what projects seem to be amenable or agreeable, as opposed to where ranking is important. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be ranking them, but maybe what the bandwidth is, considering the bridge and some other things, if we could come to. I don't see them specifically as list items either. Like, my list crosses over to infrastructure for public safety. And so I see it as sort of, are these projects we're going to work on in these committees? So I had asked that maybe we could have a meeting and sort of maybe drill down to what were the larger pieces maybe for each committee. And including Aaron, because Aaron gave himself committees that he wanted to work with, or for. It depends on where you are. And that they weren't included in that list. And so that maybe that's something we have to consider going forward as well.
Yes, Cindy.
So I actually offered this feedback to Sean. I think, like you, Gigi, if I'm hearing you correctly, found this not helpful in that there, a climate action plan and placards for handicap parking are two radically different conversations. And most of this list we have to have an arbor policing policy. It's irregardless whether we rank it as 1 or 5. It is necessary and a priority. So although I did it, I found the tool useful only because this is not how I think that we can approach borough management. Right. A conversation that came from Sean, and one that I actually started to have with a few of you, was just really kind of trying to connect conversations about big buckets that we had talked about, versus policy and procedures and expectations. And a conversation we had at FNA was perhaps that this was a task that committee can begin just to present a draft to you all and to work on how ideas and projects get funneled. And I know that I have been guilty with good intentions of trying to get things moved throughout council. We've had some iterative conversations about this that I find frustrating, because we start to have a conversation about policy and procedure, and because it's such a large one, it stops when we start to get to some momentum. So this exercise actually motivated me to think, how can I visualize or make sense of this policy and procedure? Because this is both the minutia of managing a borough, and then how does council advance some big policies, procedures?
I think that, anyone else?
Yeah, just at the risk of repeating what's already been said, the list contains items that are maybe not appropriate for council members to be prioritizing, because they're mandated by the law. They're mandated by common sense. And it's inevitable that they will be completed at some point in time. The list also contains items that are related to one another sequentially. So if you have a 5-step process, it doesn't really make common sense to rank those according to priorities if you can't possibly do step 4 before you've done step 3, 2, and 1. So that was kind of, I think my suggestion would be that if we could look at the list again, cull out all the things that are kind of just need to be done because they need to be done, and just have a list of projects. I think this is really what Cindy was pointing to, just a list of projects as even sequential, as groupings. So you know what the parts are.
Chains together.
Chained together. Then we might have more to offer and more to discuss in prioritizing them.
Other thoughts?
I would be curious to see the rankings, because if there's broad agreement on the number ones, I think that's useful information. And I agree I like what you're saying. We could separate out the kind of elective projects in terms of the timing of those from the everyday business of the borough that goes on. But I welcomed personally this opportunity because I think it's a way for us to address this big question, that we're all struggling with. So I think it's similar to the green dot exercise we see the county doing. If we have lots of green dots on these items, then we know where the agreement is. So I'd be curious to see the results.
Councilor Ricketts, do you think it would be possible, as part of a sort of a bucketing and connecting the dots exercise, to have those rankings inform some of that, preliminary prioritization?
Sure.
So that that sort of, it's a data crunching exercise in a sense, and trying to do it a little smarter than just sorting in Excel, right? But at the same time, everyone's viewpoint would be represented in sort of your work product.
Sure, and I think we're looking at two different things then as
Yeah.
well. So we have to kind of extract the data to say what is policy and process, then what is borough management and tasks, and we can work on that.
And I would add that part of the reason that the list contains those two different kinds of items is to bring an awareness to council of sort of the available resources of our staff. Because, we had a conversation maybe about 6 weeks ago where we wanted to know all the things that you do that we don't hear about. And it's part of a way for us to be more intelligent managers, to understand that the staff have things that they do, even if we sit around and issue no directives month after month. There's still a lot to do. And that the available bandwidth to take on projects, for example, an entire reevaluation of the borough's parking, it's a big project, right? Even a full-time consultant would take months, but a staff member who may be only able to allocate 5 to 8 hours a week, it's going to take a long time. So, I think it's a good exercise. I think this is a good next step. I'm seeing a lot of nods. So, what do you think our next step and timeline would be?
So Sean and I actually have a meeting scheduled on Monday. It happens to be my spring break, so I have some flexibility.
So you have nothing to do.
Well, unfortunately, it's not on an island, but it will be spent with Sean on Monday, and we can sort through some of this, and then hopefully have something to present to you all. Again, just a draft that we can begin to edit and chip away at.
Okay. All right. So we will see. Thank you.
Stay tuned.
Okay. That's all of my old business. Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll take a motion for adjournment, and then
So move.
I'll second that.
We'll have an executive session following, but no further business will happen this evening. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. 5 minutes to clear the room. Thank you.
59 minutes.
Not a record.